Final game of week 2 in the NFL as we break down our Monkey Night Fight DFS picks for the Monday Night Football tilt between the Las Vegas Rays and the New Orleans Saints. I'm Derrick Tate alongside Ryan Levy. As if you have not yet done so, and this is your first time coming across our YouTube channel for these Monkey Night Fight picks, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our fantasy football content heading into the rest of the 2020 season. And also, if this is the first time you've heard of Monkey Night Fight and their prop bet contests for the NFL season, go ahead and go to monkeyknifefight.com, create an account, use the promo code FOCUS when you make your first deposit. Monkey Night Fight will credit your account up to $50 to match your first deposit. So, Levy, it was a wild week that was, and you almost got to feel like the New Orleans Saints and the Raiders feel fortunate that they didn't play on last Sunday because so many injuries across the National Football League, big fantasy implications for most of those injuries. But you know, it seems as if, I mean, the Saints haven't gone unscathed. They don't have Michael Thomas for Monday Night Football's tilt.
Right. Yeah. It was like doomsday yesterday, and we'll talk about that in our regular podcast here Tuesday night. So make sure you guys tune in to that to get all the injury updates and waiver wires and all that. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this game plays out. No Michael Thomas. He had a high ankle sprain, so he'll be out for a while there, a couple of weeks at least. But I'm looking forward to seeing Josh Jacobs and Alvin Kamara tonight. So obviously we've got a good run game tonight. I'm really excited to see how that unfolds. What do you think headed into tonight?
Well, we knew heading into the season, and I mean, Alvin Kamara's stat line, even though he had a productive fantasy day, most of it was done through the air because that Bucks defensive unit against the run is pretty stout, and they were number one against it in 2019, and we've seen them do a decent job on Christian McCaffrey, who ended up getting injured yesterday against the Bucks, but they also did a great job against Alvin Kamara in week number 1, but it's a little different scenario for the Raiders, as we saw Christian McCaffrey have a very nice debut against this Raider unit up front. And then we also don't have any Michael Thomas for this game. So It's going to be an interesting way to see how this Saints offense adapts heading into week number 2. But we'll go ahead and start. We're going to pick 2 different contests for the Monday Night Football game between these two on monkeyknifefight.com. And we'll start with a little rapid fire. So you get 5 times your buy-in if you go 3 for 3 on picking these heads-up matchups between respective players in the categories of passing yardage, rushing yards, and reception. So we'll start with the 2 signal callers. Drew Brees versus Derrick Carr, straight up passing yardage. Carr is actually getting 8.5 yards through the air. So, but we really didn't see a big game through the air, even though they scored a ton of points, did the Saints. We didn't really see a ton of passing yardage for Drew Brees and company against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, this is a little bit different unit defensively that he's facing against the Las Vegas Raiders. I got to get used to saying Las Vegas, not Oakland. But how do you see this playing out, and with Carr in particular getting 8.5 passing yards?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just feel like with no Michael Thomas, I'm not really thrilled with the rest of the options there in New Orleans. I think they're going to lean heavily. I think you're going to see a big dose of Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. So I do expect Las Vegas to be playing from behind in this game. They actually, I mean, they put up a lot of points in week 1. I believe they put up the same amount of points as the Saints. Yeah, they both put up 34 points in week 1. So we know that they can score, right? Both of these teams. But like you said, no Michael Thomas for Drew Brees. I kind of want to give the edge to Derek Carr here. Am I crazy?
I don't think that makes you crazy at all. I mean, you take away a weapon like Michael Thomas, and don't get me wrong, we're going to get into some of the other pass catchers that are hopefully going to fill the void for the New Orleans Saints tonight. But yeah, I actually am okay with giving the nod to Derek Carr. And if this is going to be a high-scoring game, I understand that Brees is certainly capable of dropping 300 plus on any team in the National Football League through the air. But give me Derek Carr, because if I believe that the Saints are going to jump out to a lead and they're going to be able to kind of control the pace of the game, maybe they have I think they're going to have probably like a 10-point lead heading into the second half, because the Raiders gave up, 97 on the ground to Christian McCaffrey in week number 1, and this is going to be a duel threat rushing attack, like you mentioned, with Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. And I expect them to bounce back up front. I think they're going to do a pretty good job, even though the Raiders, I think, are a little bit better and more talented in that front seven group than we're giving them credit for. But I just feel like the Saints, they're still going to be productive. They're still going to adjust to life without Michael Thomas for this week. So I give Derrick Carr the nod because I just think that they're going to have to throw to try to keep up with Drew Brees and company. So yeah, I'll go with Derrick Carr.
And I just don't think at this point of his career, the Saints don't need Drew Brees to throw for 300 yards for them to win games. Like their defense is actually decent and they can run the ball. Like that's what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball 25, 30 times a game between their two backs. And they've got two talented backs there. And Kamara can obviously catch the ball out of the backfield as well. So I don't think Drew Brees needs to throw for 300 yards anymore to win games.
Right. So now we move on to rushing yards. Josh Jacobs versus Alvin Kamara. I mean, Jacobs just blew up in week number 1 against Carolina. But we're kind of getting some answers about this Carolina unit up front because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers saw, Leonard Fournette rush for over 100 yards on only 12 carries. It doesn't change the fact that Josh Jacobs is a stud and that he's going to see a heavy amount of carries. And you mentioned already, Kamara is going to probably be splitting some work as he normally does with Latavius Murray as far as just pure carries out of the backfield. But how do you see this one playing out? Kamara is actually getting 17 and a half rushing yards in this heads-up tilt.
Oh, man, that's a lot of yards for me. Like if you would have said 7.5, I think it's a no-brainer for me to go Josh Jacobs. But 17.5 seems like a lot for me in a game which I expect the Saints to rely heavily on the run game. I guess the argument I could make is if they're ahead, odds are they're going to lean on Lat Murray a little bit more heavily, right? Maybe.
The thing is with the efficiency, that's sort of the thing that I kind of want to focus on. And, Rojo had a ho-hum performance in week number 1 against this Saints unit up front. Josh Jacobs is certainly a better player and a better option in the running game than the likes of Rojo. But, I just think that Alvin Kamara is going to have a bounce back week, and 17 and a half rushing yards against a unit that got lit up by Christian McCaffrey in week number 1. I do think that Kamara, even though he may not see the number of carries that McCaffrey did because of Murray's presence, but I still think the efficiency is going to be there for Kamara. He's going to be better on the ground this week. And what I feel like is going to be a more focused rushing attack heading into this matchup against the Raiders.
Yeah, for me, 17 and a half yards is just too big of a hurdle for me to overcome. So I'm going plus 17 and a half all day when you've got a player like this.
Right. And then we come to an interesting matchup between receptions with Darren Waller versus Emmanuel Sanders. Waller last week caught 6 passes, I believe, for 45 yards. It was kind of just dink and dunk Derek Carr against the Carolina Panthers. But then we look at Emmanuel Sanders, and with no Michael Thomas, it makes you want to take a flyer because Emmanuel Sanders is getting half a reception. But look, I feel way more confident in Darren Waller's weekly involvement in the passing game than I do with Emmanuel Sanders, even though I do think Manny Sanders is going to have a favorable matchup against some of the corners in this Raiders secondary. But, I mean, we've seen it before with the Saints, that when they don't have a true full-on number 1 wide receiver, that Brees is just going to go where the defense dictates with the ball. I mean, it could be Jared Cook, it could be Traquan Smith, it could be Deontay Harris. I mean, who the hell knows? I actually feel very confident that Kamara is going to catch 6 or 7 passes out of the backfield, because when you lose a guy like Michael Thomas, a lot of times a dominant wide receiver, it doesn't mean that his targets are just going to spread out amongst other pass catchers on the outside. I think a lot of times that means more checkdowns for someone like as gifted as Kamara out of the backfield.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to agree with you on this one as well. I like Manny Sanders as a DFS play in general on Monday Night Football. If you're playing in like a showdown contest or something like that, or you're betting on a player prop, I think it makes sense to like his receiving yards and his reception total potential, but a half a yard isn't enough or a half a reception, I should say, is not enough for me to move the needle. I'm just not crazy about the pass catchers in Las Vegas either, right? I mean, Henry Ruggs is banged up this week. I think he just practiced for the first time on Saturday, so who knows if he's going to be a full go. Darren Waller, to me, is the number 1 option in this pass catcher in terms of pass catchers. Brian Edwards is there, of course, but and you've got some of the slot guys, but I think Waller is the biggest threat through the air for Derek Carr. So for that reason, I'm going to agree with you.
Not to mention Emmanuel Sanders was really, really, really quiet against the Buccaneers until the very, I think it was in the fourth quarter when he scored his touchdown, if not the fourth and the third quarter. But either way, he was very quiet heading into the second half. So for that reason, yeah, I'm with you on Waller. So we'll go ahead and fire that in there for 5. I'm putting a 5 spot on it, Levy. I'm not going to go crazy, but I am going to go with a little. Oh, it says the. Wow, the rapid fire is no longer available. But
we talked too long because we were doing it at the same time, and I got it in. I put $10 on it, so I played it for both of us, Derek.
Oh well, thanks, I appreciate it. So I'm just saying sometimes these little these games, the Vegas lines change, and so do the contest changes on monkeyknifefight.com. So take your bets while they're hot when you're watching this video. But again, go to monkeyknifefight.com when you make your first deposit. Just remember to use the promo code FOCUSED, and monkeyknifefight.com will credit your account up to $50 to match your first deposit. So let's go to my favorite, the 35 times you buy in. 6 for 6, you got to go more or less. You can do it for either fantasy points or for prop bets for in-game statistics. So I like doing this one more so than the fantasy points. So let's go ahead and start it off. Drew Brees, 268.5 passing yards. You got more or less?
I got less for Drew Brees. I'm hyping up the run game here, 25, 30 carries. I just don't think he needs to throw for that many yards for them to win this game. What would make me nervous, of course, if we get into a shootout,
which is possible.
It is possible for sure. I mean, like I said, both these teams have showed us they can score, but I just don't think that Vegas is going to keep up here. So I don't see the need for that many yards for Brees. So I'll go less.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you on less. I don't. In particular with Michael Thomas, when you lose a guy of his caliber, who's to say that your offense is going to be that much more potent through the air? No, it's likely going to go the opposite direction, but he'll still put up a good amount of yardage. I still think he throws for somewhere around 235, but 268 is a higher number for a team that I think is going to run the football quite a bit and effectively against this Raider unit up front. So that moves us now to Derrick Carr, 260.5 passing yards.
Oh man. Can we skip to the end real quick? I want to come back to this.
Okay.
I want to go. I know this is a crazy method, but I like to do this when I'm playing these things. I believe in Waller. To me, every week he's like a Kelsey guy. I'm not saying he's as good as Kelsey, but for player props and weekly production and fantasy production, I feel like you can count on Kelsey to catch 6 balls a week. I feel like you can count on Waller to catch 5 balls a week. I don't think that's unrealistic. I think you can fire that in every week, regardless of matchup, as a lock. So I want to go more on Waller at 5, 4.5.
Yeah, I'm okay with that strictly because Henry Ruggs is dinged up. I thought that Henry Ruggs, you can move him around the formation depending on how healthy he really is. I think that Ruggs could have himself a very nice game against a unit that gave up 5 catches for 73 yards from the likes of Scotty Miller. And I think Ruggs is just a souped up version of Scotty. So, but either way, if the Raiders are playing from behind, Waller is going to see, probably double-digit targets. And I think that he catches at least half of those and hits that more on 4.5 receptions. So that brings us to Jared Cook. And Cook is really one of the more interesting prop bets in this one for the Saints pass catchers, because the fact that there is no Michael Thomas means there's going to be some production through the air. And I thought that he was very good in week 1. 5 catches for 80 yards. One of them, one of the longer pass receptions that he had came against the Bucs corner, Jamel Dean, where he kind of just, for some reason, just let Cook run right up the sideline and stopped running with him for some unbeknownst reason. But either way, that was actually half of the receiving yardage from Drew Brees. So from week number 1. So I actually feel confident about Jared Cook's role in week 2. What are your thoughts?
I feel very confident in his role in week 2. I feel more confident that he has a more secure fantasy day than Emmanuel Sanders. I just feel like he's already got the rapport with Drew Brees from last season. He had a good touchdown season last year, if I'm not mistaken. And, Manny Sanders is new to town. Maybe it's going to take a couple of weeks for him to get lubed up with old Drew Brees. But yeah, I'll go Cook more here all day.
Yeah, in particular, his matchup against some of either the safeties for the Las Vegas Raiders or Nicholas Morrow in particular, one of the outside linebackers. I think that he matches up pretty well against the linebackers and safeties for the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm with Jared Cook going more than 55.5 receiving yards. I wouldn't be shocked if he leads or is right there with Alvin Kamara for the most reception yards in this game for the Saints. But now Josh Jacobs, this is tricky. I almost feel like I have to go more because I feel confident he's going to see at least 15 carries. And unless he is just completely shut down, then, I think he has a way to get to around that 70-yard mark.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I want to smash the more on this as well. I believe in him as a player. We've been pretty spot on with our running back analysis on Monkey Knife Fight lately. We hit on Nick Chubb, for example, recently. We hit on Aaron Jones on Sunday. Some of these marquee players that, had numbers that seemed a bit low. So 70.5 for me, I see Jacobs with a 90-yard game again.
Yeah, it could get up to around 90. For some reason, I just have a gut feeling it's going to be like around 82.
Okay.
I don't know how long they're going to be able to run the football if the Saints do get out to an early lead. They're not going to completely abandon the running game, no matter how you slice it. But I do think that Jacobs is going to have to do most of his damage on the ground in the first 3 quarters for me to feel confident that he's going to hit that 71-yard rushing mark. But I think he does. Which now brings us to the other running back in this matchup, Alvin Kamara. And Kamara, outside of having a, pretty, pedestrian, in fact, very ineffective day on the ground, but outside of 1 rushing touchdown, 12 carries for 16 yards. But where he always has an impact in the passing game, 5 catches for 51 yards, and that was with a healthy Michael Thomas. For me, I actually feel confident that Kamara is going to catch 6 passes in this game because I don't necessarily think that it just means all those normal double-digit targets that go to Michael Thomas are just going to go straight to Emmanuel Sanders. I think we see an uptick for Alvin Kamara in the passing game from his normal already kind of very heavily involved role.
I feel like this number is set where it should be every week. Like it should always be 5.5. Look, he's caught 81 passes on the nose the last 3 years. I mean, this guy is as consistent as it comes through the air, which I think is like 5 yards a game if you average that over 16 games, right? So this number is set exactly where it should be. This could be the make or break pick. But with no Michael Thomas, I mean, I agree with all your points there. The logical play here is to go more. And then moving on to Carr. The more I think about it and the weapons that he's got there, I'm not necessarily a believer in the weapons outside of Jacobs and Darren Waller. I like Edwards a little bit, but I see him getting less than 260 yards. I actually think the Saints defense is decent.
No, I think they're decent, but you also realize that in week 1 against Tom Brady and company, now I'm not saying that the weapons that Carr has are on par with Tom Brady. They're not. But I will say that whether it's Hunter Renfrow working out of the slot or whether it's Henry Ruggs, I think that this offensive attack is going to be, at least rack up some yardage. And again, if we have game flow, I actually feel confident that Derek Carr hits the more on 261 passing yards. I actually think that I'm not going to say they match up great against this secondary, but I think that they'll be effective. And your boy, John Gruden, I tell you what, man, he's going to get some things dialed up there for the pass catchers there in Las Vegas.
Yeah. If you want to go more, I was on the fence on this one. I do believe game flow wise, they'll find themselves playing from behind. But for me, I expect him to throw for like 240 like he did last week. Like that game was close last week, right? And they were just back and forth punching each other, and he still only threw for 239, right?
I don't know how effective they're going to be running the football, though. Are we going to see the same efficiency that we saw from Josh Jacobs in this game? I don't think so. It's going to be he's still going to be effective, but not as efficient as he was in week 1 against a Carolina unit that apparently can't stop a nosebleed on the ground.
All right, I'm on board with more. We got a lot of mores here. Bucky would not like this, but we gotta fire him in there, Tater.
Oh my God. And this says this one's no longer active. So I don't know what to say. I mean, we've now doing 2 of these live.
You're too slow.
I don't know if it's too slow, dude. I mean, what? We were on here for like this episode's only been recording for 19 minutes.
Right.
That is frustrating. Okay, so
Still
here we
there,
go.
buddy.
It's still there, but why is it not
Just do it
registering?
faster. That's all. You're too slow. We're taking up too much time talking. So we almost got to talk about it and then refresh and then do the pick.
Yeah, maybe. So let's
There
see. Let's see. All right, there we go. So as much as this has been an interesting episode when trying to actually place our bets through monkeyknifefight.com. If this is your first time coming across our YouTube channel here on Fantasy Focus, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate all of the support. Of course, we're going to be coming out with fantasy football content for the entire 2020 NFL season. But also, again, one more reminder, if you have not yet done so and want to check out monkeyknifefight.com, use the promo code FOCUS when you make your first deposit of $50 or more. Monkey Knife Fight will match it up to $50 with your first deposit when you use the promo code FOCUSED. So until next time, everybody, good luck on Monday Night Football, and later, says the Tater.
See you guys. Good luck.